Step out of the vehicle.
Get out!
Now!
No! I don't consent! Don't touch me!
You are under arrest for obstruction.
Don't touch
Get on the
me!
ground.
There are different cases we have to look into and learn from. I will start from the very first case. The silver Lexus was parked across two handicapped spaces outside a upscale steakhouse at 11:47 p.m. on a Saturday night when Officer Rachel Kwan pulled into the lot responding to a complaint. The complaint had come from the restaurant manager. A customer had dined, ordered extensively, consumed multiple drinks, and when presented with the check had informed the server that payment was not happening tonight. The customer was still inside. Still at the table. Still insisting that this was all a misunderstanding that would resolve itself once certain people were contacted. Officer Kwan approached the entrance and was met immediately by the manager, a man in his 50s who looked like he had aged a decade in the past hour. He explained the situation in clipped, exhausted sentences. The woman at table 12 had a bill of $173. She had eaten everything. She had admitted she had no money. She had offered to leave her purse as collateral, then changed her mind. She had tried to get other diners to pay for her. She had name-dropped celebrities. She had claimed her father was a federal judge. She had threatened to sue. And now she was refusing to leave. Officer Kwan walked inside and identified the woman immediately. She was the only person still seated in the dining area, phone in hand, scrolling with the casual confidence of someone who believed rescue was one text message away. Her name, as Kwan would learn moments later, was Monica Ashford. And Monica was about to learn that entitlement is not a valid form of currency. And if you have ever watched someone try to negotiate their way out of a bill using a combination of celebrity connections they do not have and medical conditions they just invented, stay locked in. Because this video is a masterclass in what happens when reality refuses to accept your alternative version of it. Hit that subscribe button if you love watching consequences arrive exactly on schedule. Officer Kwan approached the table and identified herself. Monica looked up from her phone, smiled, and said the first of many things that would not help her situation. "Oh, thank God you're here. Can you tell these people that I'm not a criminal?" Kwan asked Monica to explain what had happened. Monica's version of events was a masterpiece of deflection and misdirection. She had come to the restaurant to meet a friend. The friend had not shown up. She had decided to eat anyway because she was starving and the restaurant had a great reputation. She had assumed her credit card would work. It had not worked. She had tried 3 different cards. None of them had worked. She had checked her bank account on her phone and discovered that someone had hacked her account and drained it. She had called her bank. They were investigating. In the meantime, she had no access to her funds, but she fully intended to pay once the situation was resolved, which would probably be Monday morning when the banks reopened. Kwan listened to all of it without interrupting. Then she asked Monica a simple question. "Do you have any way to pay this bill right now?" Monica said no. But she said it in a way that suggested the word no was simply a temporary inconvenience that would be overridden by the force of her personality and the reasonableness of her explanation. Kwan told her that if she could not pay the bill, she would be placed under arrest for defrauding an innkeeper. Monica's expression shifted from confident to confused. She asked Kwan if she was serious. Kwan told her she was completely serious. Monica told Kwan that arresting her would be a massive overreaction and that Kwan would regret it when certain facts came to light. Kwan asked what facts. Monica told her that she was not just anyone. That she had connections. That her family was influential. That this entire situation was going to blow up in Kwan's face if she did not walk away right now and let Monica handle it. Kwan told her that none of that changed the fact that she had consumed $173 worth of food and beverages and had no means to pay for it. Monica told her that she would have means to pay for it on Monday. Kwan told her that was not how this worked. The legal framework governing Monica's situation is straightforward and well established. Under state law, obtaining food or services with the intent to defraud the provider is a criminal offense. The intent can be demonstrated in multiple ways. Ordering food while knowing you have no ability to pay. Consuming the food and then refusing to pay. Making false promises about future payment while having no genuine intention or ability to follow through. Monica had done all 3. She had ordered extensively. She had eaten everything. She had acknowledged that she had no money and no working credit cards. And critically, she had not attempted to leave collateral that had any real value. An empty purse is not collateral. A promise to pay on Monday is not payment. And the claim that her bank account had been hacked, while possibly true, did not change the fact that she had placed the order knowing she might not be able to pay. The restaurant had every right to call the police. The police had probable cause to make an arrest. And Monica's insistence that this was all a misunderstanding did not alter the legal reality of what had occurred. Kwon explained this to Monica in clear, patient language. She told her that the restaurant was not required to extend credit. That Monica's personal financial situation was not the restaurant's responsibility. That if Monica could not pay now and could not arrange for someone else to pay on her behalf immediately, she would be taken into custody. Monica responded by pulling out her phone and announcing that she was going to call someone who could fix this. Kwon told her she had 5 minutes. Monica called 4 different people. None of them answered. She left voicemails that became progressively more frantic. She texted. She sent voice messages. She scrolled through her contacts looking for someone, anyone, who might pick up at midnight on a Saturday and agree to drive to a steakhouse to pay a bill for a woman they had not heard from in months. No one came. The 5 minutes expired. Kwon told Monica to stand up. Monica told Kwon that she needed more time. Kwon told her that time was not something she could provide. Monica told Kwon that this was insane. That she was being treated like a criminal for having a bad night. That the system was broken. That Kwon was making a huge mistake. Kwon told her to turn around and place her hands behind her back. The moment the handcuffs came out, Monica's strategy shifted from negotiation to outrage. She did not resist physically. She did not run. But she began speaking in a tone that suggested she was the victim of a profound injustice and that everyone present, the officer, the manager, the universe itself, was conspiring against her for reasons she could not fathom. She told Kwon that this was the most humiliating experience of her life. That she had never been treated this way. That she was a respected member of the community. That her family would be appalled when they found out. That Kwon was going to be named in a lawsuit. That the restaurant was going to lose business when word got out about how they treated customers. Kwon applied the handcuffs and told Monica she was under arrest for theft of services. Monica told her that she had not stolen anything. That theft required intent. That she had fully intended to pay but had been prevented from doing so by circumstances beyond her control. Kwon told her that intent was demonstrated by action, and her action had been to consume the food without the ability to pay for it. Monica told her that was not fair. That life was not fair. That bad things happen to good people and this was one of those situations. That Kwon was supposed to protect and serve, not punish people who were having the worst night of their lives. Kwon walked her to the patrol vehicle. Monica walked slowly, as if the act of moving toward the car would somehow delay the inevitable. She kept talking the entire time. She told Kwon that her father was going to hear about this. That her father knew people. That Kwon's supervisor was going to get a very angry phone call on Monday morning. Kwon placed her in the back seat, closed the door, and returned to the restaurant to complete the paperwork. The manager provided a copy of the bill, a written statement, and security footage showing Monica arriving alone, dining alone, and attempting to leave without paying before being stopped by staff. The evidence was airtight. Monica was not a victim of circumstance. She was a person who had made a series of choices that had logical, legal consequences. The transport to the county detention center took 18 minutes. Monica spent the first 10 minutes in silence, staring out the window, processing what was happening. Then she began talking again. Not to Kwon. To herself. Or to an imaginary audience. She narrated her own victimhood in real time. She said that this was proof that the system did not work. That people who made one mistake were criminalized while real criminals walked free. That she was being punished for being honest. That if she had just walked out without saying anything, none of this would have happened. That her honesty had been weaponized against her. Kwon did not respond. She had heard variations of this monologue dozens of times. The belief that honesty about wrongdoing should somehow exempt a person from consequences for that wrongdoing. The idea that admitting you cannot pay a bill is the same thing as paying it. The conviction that being cooperative in tone should outweigh being non-compliant in action. Monica shifted tactics. She asked Kwan if she had ever made a mistake. Kwan did not answer. Monica asked if Kwan had ever had a bad night. If Kwan had ever been in a situation where things spiraled out of control. If Kwan had ever needed help and not received it. Kwan told her that everyone had bad nights. That bad nights did not give anyone the right to take things that did not belong to them. Monica told her that she had not taken anything. That she had consumed a service in good faith with every intention of paying. That the only crime here was the restaurant's refusal to show compassion. Kwan told her that compassion was not the restaurant's legal obligation. Payment was. Monica went silent again. This time the silence lasted until they arrived at the detention center. The booking process at the county jail is designed to be impersonal and efficient. Monica experienced it as a series of humiliations. She was photographed. She was fingerprinted. She was searched. She was asked questions about her medical history, her mental health, her substance use. She answered all of them with varying degrees of hostility and sarcasm. When asked if she had any medical conditions, she said she had anxiety. When asked if she was currently taking medication, she said no because she could not afford it. When asked if she had consumed alcohol that evening, she said yes, 3 glasses of wine with dinner. When asked if she had consumed any drugs, she said no and added that the question was offensive. The intake officer processed her without reacting to any of it. She had been through this routine thousands of times. Monica was not unique. Monica was not special. Monica was one of dozens of people who would pass through this facility that weekend, all of them convinced that their situation was different, that they did not belong here, that a mistake had been made. Monica was given a court date. 14 days from the date of her arrest. She was told that if she failed to appear, a warrant would be issued. She was told that she could post bail if someone was willing to pay it. She asked how much the bail was. She was told it was $500. Monica laughed. A short, bitter laugh that communicated exactly how absurd she found the situation. She could not pay a $173 dinner bill and now she was expected to come up with $500 for bail. She told the intake officer that the system was designed to trap people. That once you were in, you could never get out. The intake officer told her that bail could be posted by anyone. Monica asked who she was supposed to call. The intake officer told her that was not something the facility could help her with. Monica was placed in a holding cell. She sat on the bench and stared at the wall. And for the first time since Officer Kwan had walked into the restaurant, Monica stopped talking. Meanwhile, 60 miles away in a different jurisdiction, a second woman was having a remarkably similar night for entirely different reasons. Her name was Jessica Brennan, and she had just been pulled over for running a red light.
Step out of the vehicle.
Get out!
Now!
No! I don't consent! Don't touch me!
You are under arrest for obstruction.
Touch
Get on the ground.
At a busy intersection. The officer who initiated the stop, Deputy Luis Garza, had watched her blow through the light without even slowing down. He activated his lights and followed her for 3 blocks before she finally pulled over. Garza approached the driver's side window and asked for license, registration, and proof of insurance. Jessica handed him her license but told him she did not have the registration or insurance because the car was a rental and she had just picked it up that afternoon. Garza asked for the rental agreement. Jessica told him it was in her luggage in the trunk. Garza told her he would need to see it. Jessica told him that was inconvenient. Garza told her it was necessary. Jessica told him she was running late. Garza told her that running a red light was not an acceptable way to make up time. Jessica told him that she had not run a red light. That the light had been yellow when she entered the intersection. Garza told her that he had been directly behind her and that the light had been red for a full 2 seconds before she crossed the line. Jessica told him that he was wrong. That his perspective was flawed. That from where she had been sitting, the light had clearly been yellow. Garza told her that arguing about the color of the light was not going to change what was about to happen. Jessica asked what was about to happen. Garza told her she was going to receive a citation for running a red light and for failing to provide proof of registration and insurance. Jessica told him that was ridiculous. That she had just explained the situation. That she was in a rental car. That the documents were in the trunk. That none of this was her fault. Garza told her to step out of the vehicle so they could retrieve the rental agreement from the trunk. Jessica told him no. The refusal to exit the vehicle is one of the most common escalation points in traffic stops, and it is almost always rooted in a fundamental misunderstanding of how authority works during a lawful detention. Jessica genuinely believed that by refusing to get out of the car, she was exercising her rights. She was not. She was violating a lawful order, which is a separate offense from the traffic violation that had initiated the stop. Garza explained this to her. He told her that under established case law, an officer could order a driver out of the vehicle during a traffic stop for officer safety reasons. That her refusal to comply was obstruction. That if she continued to refuse, she would be removed from the vehicle and placed under arrest. Jessica told him that she did not consent to being removed from the vehicle. Garza told her that her consent was not required. Jessica told him that this was America and that she had rights. Garza told her that her rights did not include the right to refuse lawful police instructions during a traffic stop. Jessica told him that she wanted to speak to his supervisor. Garza told her that a supervisor could be called, but that she would still need to exit the vehicle. Jessica told him that she would exit the vehicle when the supervisor arrived. Garza told her that was not how it worked. The conversation looped for approximately 90 seconds. Garza gave her multiple opportunities to comply. Jessica refused each time. Finally, Garza opened the driver's side door and told her that he was going to assist her out of the vehicle. Jessica grabbed the steering wheel with both hands and told him not to touch her. Garza called for backup. Within 3 minutes, 2 additional units arrived on scene. Jessica was still in the driver's seat, hands locked on the wheel, refusing to move. The 3 officers conferred briefly. Then they made the decision to extract her. The extraction took less than 30 seconds. Jessica did not fight in the traditional sense. She did not swing or kick. But she went completely limp, forcing the officers to support her full body weight as they pulled her from the vehicle and placed her on the ground. Once she was on the ground, she began screaming that she was being assaulted. That she was being brutalized. That someone needed to record this. Multiple bystanders were recording it. The footage would later show exactly what had happened. Jessica refusing to exit. Jessica grabbing the wheel. Jessica going limp. And Jessica screaming about assault while 3 officers used the minimum force necessary to remove her from a vehicle during a lawful stop. Once Jessica was out of the vehicle and in handcuffs, her tone shifted from defiant to wounded. She told the officers that she could not believe this was happening. That she was a taxpayer. That she had never been in trouble in her life. That this was going to ruin her. Garza told her that none of this had to happen. That all she had been asked to do was step out of the car. Jessica told him that she had been afraid. That she did not know what he was going to do. That she had heard stories about police violence and she had panicked. Garza told her that if she had been genuinely afraid, the appropriate response would have been to comply and file a complaint later, not to physically resist. Jessica told him that was easy to say when you were not the one being pulled over. Garza told her that being pulled over was not a negotiation. It was a lawful detention that required cooperation. Jessica was transported to the station for processing. During the transport, she asked Garza if he had any idea who she was. Garza told her that he did not, and that it did not matter. Jessica told him that her family was well connected. That her uncle was a city councilman. That Garza was going to regret this. Garza told her that threats were not going to improve her situation. Jessica told him it was not a threat. It was a fact. That people were going to hear about this. That there would be consequences. Garza told her that she was right. There would be consequences. For her. For running a red light, for refusing to provide documentation, for refusing to exit the vehicle, and for resisting lawful police instructions. For separate violations, all documented on body camera, all witnessed by multiple officers. Jessica went silent. The reality of what she had done was beginning to penetrate the protective shell of entitlement she had constructed around herself. The psychological profile that emerges from both Monica and Jessica is remarkably similar despite the different circumstances of their arrests. Both women operated under the belief that consequences were negotiable. That rules applied to other people but not to them. That their personal circumstances, their connections, their explanations, should override the basic social contract that governs how society functions. Monica believed that her inability to pay a restaurant bill should be the restaurant's problem, not hers. She believed that her intention to pay eventually should count the same as payment. She believed that calling attention to the unfairness of her situation would make the legal obligation disappear. Jessica believed that being pulled over was optional. That refusing to comply with lawful orders was a form of protest she was entitled to engage in. That invoking her family connections would intimidate the officers into letting her go. Both of them were wrong. And both of them learned, in the back of a patrol car, that reality does not bend to accommodate entitlement. The common thread between them is magical thinking. The belief that words have power independent of action. That saying the right thing, invoking the right name, claiming the right status, will alter outcomes that have already been set in motion by choices they made. Monica could have avoided arrest by paying her bill, or by not ordering food she could not afford, or by leaving valid collateral. Jessica could have avoided arrest by exiting the vehicle when instructed, or by not running the red light in the first place. Both of them had multiple off-ramps. Both of them chose to accelerate instead. Monica's arraignment happened on Monday morning. She appeared before the judge via video link from the detention center. She had spent the weekend in jail because no one had posted her bail. She looked exhausted. The confident, indignant woman who had argued with Officer Kwan in the restaurant had been replaced by someone who looked smaller, quieter, defeated. The judge read the charges. Theft of services. Defrauding an innkeeper. Monica entered a plea of not guilty. The judge set a trial date and asked if Monica had retained an attorney. Monica said she could not afford an attorney. The judge told her that a public defender would be appointed. The prosecutor provided the evidence summary. The restaurant bill. The manager's statement. The security footage. Monica's own admission that she had no money and no way to pay. The judge reviewed it and told Monica that the state had a strong case. He asked if she wanted to reconsider her plea. Monica told the judge that she had not intended to defraud anyone. That she had made a mistake. That she had been going through a difficult time. The judge told her that intent was not determined by what she said but by what she did. That ordering food she could not pay for demonstrated intent regardless of her explanation. Monica started crying. She told the judge that she was sorry. That she had learned her lesson. That she would never do anything like this again. The judge told her that her remorse was noted but that it did not change the fact that a crime had been committed. He released her on her own recognizance with the condition that she appear at all scheduled court dates. Monica thanked him and left the courtroom. She walked out of the detention center into a world that felt different than it had 72 hours earlier. Smaller. Less forgiving. Less interested in her excuses. Jessica's processing was faster because she was able to post bail within hours of her arrest. A family member had wired the money. She was released with a court date and a stack of citations. Running a red light. Failure to provide proof of insurance. Failure to provide registration. Resisting arrest. Obstruction. 5 charges from a traffic stop that should have resulted in 1 ticket. Jessica sat in the parking lot of the police station and looked at the paperwork. She read each charge. She read the potential penalties. Fines. Points on her license. Possible jail time for the resisting charge. She called her uncle, the city councilman. She told him what had happened. She told him that she had been mistreated. That the officers had been aggressive. That the whole thing had been blown out of proportion. Her uncle listened to all of it and then asked her one question. Did you run the red light? Jessica hesitated. Then she said yes, but that it had been barely red. Her uncle told her that barely red was still red. Jessica told him that she had panicked when the officer asked her to get out of the car. Her uncle told her that panic was not a legal defense. Jessica told him that she needed his help. Her uncle told her that he could not help her. That this was not a political issue. It was a legal issue. That she needed to hire an attorney and deal with the consequences of her choices. Jessica hung up. She sat in her car and cried. Not because she was sorry, but because the people she had expected to rescue her were not coming. The trial for Monica's case happened 6 weeks after her arrest. She had met with her public defender 3 times. The defender had been blunt with her. The evidence was overwhelming. The security footage showed her attempting to leave without paying. The manager's statement was detailed and credible. Her own admission to the officer that she had no money sealed the case. The defender advised her to plead guilty and ask for leniency. Monica refused. She told the defender that she was not a criminal. That pleading guilty would mean admitting she had done something wrong. That she had not done anything wrong. She had just had a bad night. The defender told her that having a bad night did not give her the right to take things that did not belong to her. Monica told her that she had not taken anything. The defender told her that consuming food without the ability to pay was legally classified as theft. Monica told her that the law was stupid. The case went to trial. It lasted 4 hours. The prosecution presented their evidence methodically. The bill. The footage. The statements. Monica took the stand in her own defense and testified that she had fully intended to pay once her bank account was unfrozen. The prosecutor asked her why she had ordered so much food if she knew her accounts were frozen. Monica said she had not known until she tried to pay. The prosecutor played the security footage showing Monica checking her phone multiple times during the meal, scrolling through what appeared to be banking apps. He asked her if she had been checking her account balance. Monica said she might have been. He asked her if she had seen that her accounts were frozen before she finished eating. Monica said she did not remember. The jury deliberated for 37 minutes. They returned a verdict of guilty. Monica was sentenced to 90 days in county jail, suspended, with 2 years of probation and restitution to the restaurant in the amount of $173 plus court costs. Monica left the courtroom with a criminal record and a debt she still could not pay. Jessica's case was resolved differently. Her attorney, a private defense lawyer her family had hired, negotiated a plea deal. In exchange for pleading guilty to the red light violation and the failure to provide documentation, the prosecution would drop the resisting and obstruction charges. Jessica took the deal. She paid the fines. She completed a defensive driving course. She avoided jail time. But the arrest remained on her record. And the footage of her being removed from the vehicle, screaming about assault while going limp in the officer's arms, had been posted online by one of the bystanders who had recorded it. The video went viral. Not because it was particularly dramatic, but because it was so perfectly illustrative of a specific type of person. Someone who believes that rules are suggestions. That consequences are optional. That authority can be negotiated away with the right combination of indignation and victimhood. Jessica's name was not attached to the video. But people who knew her recognized her. And the video followed her. It surfaced during job interviews. It was referenced in online discussions about entitled behavior. It became, in a very real sense, the most permanent consequence of that night. More permanent than the fines. More permanent than the points on her license. A digital record of the moment when her belief in her own exceptionalism collided with reality and lost. The commonalities between Monica and Jessica extend beyond their arrests. Both of them came from backgrounds where consequences had been rare. Both of them had been insulated, to varying degrees, from the normal friction that teaches most people where the boundaries are. Both of them had developed a worldview in which their needs, their explanations, their circumstances, should matter more to other people than they actually did. Monica had spent years relying on charm and excuses to get out of situations she had created. Late payments. Bounced checks. Unfulfilled promises. She had learned that if she talked fast enough and sounded sincere enough, people would usually let it slide. The restaurant was just the first time that strategy had failed completely. Jessica had grown up in a family where connections mattered. Where a phone call from her uncle could smooth over a speeding ticket or get her into a school she had not quite qualified for. She had internalized the belief that rules were flexible for people like her. The traffic stop was the first time she had encountered an officer who did not care about her last name. Both of them had constructed identities around the idea that they were special. That they were different. That they deserved accommodations that other people did not deserve. And both of them had been forced, in the space of a few hours, to confront the reality that none of that was true. The law did not care about Monica's bank account. It did not care about Jessica's family connections. It did not care about their explanations or their tears or their threats. It cared about what they had done. And what they had done was break the rules that everyone else was expected to follow. The psychological term for what both women experienced is called cognitive dissonance. The mental discomfort that occurs when a person's beliefs are contradicted by reality. Monica believed she was a good person who had made an understandable mistake. The jury told her she was a thief. Jessica believed she was a victim of aggressive policing. The video showed her physically resisting a lawful order. The dissonance is painful. It forces a choice. Either the person accepts that their beliefs were wrong and adjusts their worldview accordingly. Or they reject reality and double down on the beliefs, constructing an alternative narrative that preserves their self-image. Monica chose the second option. After her conviction, she posted on social media about how the system was broken. How juries were biased against people who could not afford expensive lawyers. How restaurants should be required to provide payment plans for customers in financial distress. She framed herself as a victim of capitalism and an unjust legal system. She never once acknowledged that she had ordered food she could not pay for. Jessica was quieter about it. She did not post publicly. But in private conversations with friends and family, she maintained that the officers had overreacted. That she had been scared. That the whole thing had been a misunderstanding that got out of hand. She acknowledged that she should have handled it differently, but she never quite accepted that the fault was hers. It was always the officers who had escalated. The system that had been too rigid. The circumstances that had been unfair. Neither of them learned the lesson the experience was trying to teach them. That consequences are not personal attacks. They are the predictable results of choices. That entitlement is not armor. It is a vulnerability that makes every setback feel like an injustice. That the world does not owe anyone special treatment just because they believe they deserve it. 1 year after their arrests, both women were in different places but remarkably similar positions. Monica had completed her probation. She had paid her restitution in installments over 18 months. She had avoided jail time. But she had not avoided the consequences. Her credit was ruined. Her job applications were rejected because of her criminal record. She was working part-time at a grocery store, making barely enough to cover rent and utilities. She blamed the system. She blamed the restaurant for pressing charges. She blamed the officer for not giving her more time. She blamed the jury for not understanding her situation. She did not blame herself. Because accepting blame would require accepting that she had been wrong. And Monica's entire sense of self was built on the foundation that she was not the kind of person who did wrong things. Jessica had moved to a different city. She had taken a job that did not require a background check. She had stopped talking about the arrest except when she was drinking, at which point she would tell the story as a cautionary tale about police overreach. She had edited the memory in her own mind. The officers had been too aggressive. She had been too scared to think clearly. It had been a perfect storm of miscommunication and bad luck. She did not mention that she had run a red light. She did not mention that she had refused to exit the vehicle. She did not mention that she had been given multiple opportunities to comply and had refused them all. Those details had been smoothed away in the retelling, replaced with a narrative that preserved her self-image as someone who had been wronged rather than someone who had been held accountable. Both of them were still operating under the same fundamental belief that had gotten them arrested in the first place. That they were exceptions. That the rules were for other people. That their circumstances, their explanations, their feelings, should matter more than their actions. The officers involved in both arrests moved on quickly. Officer Kwan processed dozens of arrests in the months following Monica's case. She did not remember Monica specifically unless prompted. The arrest had been routine. The behavior had been predictable. The outcome had been exactly what the law required. There was nothing exceptional about it except in Monica's own mind. Deputy Garza had a similar experience. Jessica's arrest was one of many. The resistance was common. The claims of mistreatment were familiar. The video evidence that contradicted those claims was standard. He had filed his report, testified at the hearing where the plea deal was finalized, and moved on to the next call. For the officers, these encounters were part of the job. They were not personal. They were not memorable. They were simply the application of law to behavior. But for Monica and Jessica, the arrests were defining moments. Moments that forced them to confront, however briefly, the gap between how they saw themselves and how the world saw them. The tragedy, if tragedy is the right word for something so entirely self-inflicted, is that neither of them used the moment to change. They used it to confirm their existing beliefs. That the world was unfair. That they were victims. That the system was broken. They took an experience that could have been transformative and turned it into evidence of persecution. This is the paradox of entitlement. It is both a shield and a trap. It protects the ego from the pain of accountability. But it also prevents growth. It keeps the person locked in the same patterns that created the problem in the first place. Monica kept making financial decisions she could not afford and blaming others when the bills came due. Jessica kept driving recklessly and blaming others when she got caught. The arrests did not change them because they refused to let the arrests mean what they meant. That they were not special. That they were subject to the same rules as everyone else. That consequences are not optional. The broader implications of cases like Monica's and Jessica's extend beyond the individuals involved. They illuminate a specific cultural phenomenon. The rise of a mindset that views accountability as persecution. That interprets enforcement of rules as oppression. That believes that explaining why you broke a rule should be the same as not breaking it. This mindset is not new. But it has been amplified by social media, where every grievance can be broadcast and every setback can be framed as injustice. Monica's Facebook post about her arrest received hundreds of likes from people who had never read the police report or watched the security footage. People who simply accepted her version of events because it confirmed their own belief that the system was rigged. Jessica's story, the version she told to friends, was shared and repeated by people who wanted to believe that police overreach was everywhere. That anyone could be pulled from their car for no reason. That compliance was dangerous. The actual facts, the red light, the refusal to exit, the physical resistance, were inconvenient details that complicated the narrative. Both women found communities that validated their victim status. Communities that told them they had been wronged. That told them they were brave for speaking out. That told them they were right to be angry. And in those communities, they found comfort. But they did not find truth. Because the truth was simple and uncomfortable. They had broken rules. They had faced consequences. They had been treated exactly the way anyone else would have been treated in the same situation. There was no conspiracy. No injustice. No persecution. Just cause and effect. Action and consequence. The most basic transaction in the social contract. Their refusal to accept this truth did not make it less true. It just made them less capable of learning from it. The videos of both arrests, released under public records requests, continue to circulate online. They show up in compilations of entitled behavior. They are used as teaching examples in criminal justice courses. They are referenced in debates about policing and accountability. And they serve as permanent reminders of what happens when people who believe they are above the rules discover that they are not. Monica Ashford ordered food she could not pay for and spent the weekend in jail. Jessica Brennan ran a red light and ended up on the ground in handcuffs. Both of them had opportunities to avoid what happened to them. Both of them chose, at every decision point, to escalate rather than comply. Both of them believed that their words, their status, their explanations, would override their actions. They were wrong. And the bodycam footage from both encounters shows, with brutal clarity, the exact moment when that wrongness became undeniable. When the handcuffs closed. When the patrol car door shut. When the reality they had been trying to negotiate away arrived in full force and refused to be dismissed. The question that lingers after watching both videos is not whether Monica and Jessica deserved what happened to them. The law answered that question definitively. The question is why they believed, with such absolute conviction, that they could avoid it. What had taught them that rules were optional for people like them? What had insulated them so completely from consequences that they genuinely did not see the arrest coming until it was happening? And perhaps more importantly, how many other people are walking around right now with that same belief? That same conviction that they are special enough to be exempt from the basic requirements of citizenship. That same certainty that if they just explain themselves well enough, loudly enough, indignantly enough, the rules will bend. The body cam does not answer these questions. But it does show, with perfect clarity, what happens when that certainty collides with officers who do not care about explanations. Only compliance. Only law. Only the social contract that keeps civilization from collapsing into chaos. Monica and Jessica learned that lesson in the back of patrol cars. The rest of us can learn it by watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comment. Do remember to hit the subscribe button, like and share this story, and I'll see you in the next one.